And that's how powerful realizing my message is not about each one of you being the same. I don't want you, what's your name? Christian, nice to meet you. What's your name? Todd, what's your name? I don't want you guys, I don't want Kristen to be like Todd. I don't want Todd to be like Sean. I don't want you to be like them. I want you to be the best each of you can be in what you love doing. Does that make sense? This is not about making you, you've read about the Nazis probably a little bit. Oh, there's a bad choice. There's a bully. I'm supposed to talk about bullies today. What was that about? That was about some strong force trying to use his power to make everybody like him. That's not the message today. The message is that courageous kids become courageous adults by realizing they just have to be more of who they are at their best. All the power that you have is already there. And it starts with learning to focus when you're in class, when you're distracted. Having fun is good. Don't get me wrong. Make it fun, because that's when your passion is going to come into that classroom. But when you're tempted to be distracted, say, wait a minute, it's all about my ability to focus and have fun doing that too. Because then, man, I'm back on math. And suddenly I'm doing better at math, and gosh, it didn't seem that hard. Or I don't like writing, or I don't like reading. A week later, a month later, a year later, I'm pretty good at reading. Because I realized that reading and math teach me how to focus. Because what the teachers know here, and the principal knows, and Rachel knows, who asked me to come here, thank you Rachel for asking me to come, is that when you leave school, when you leave this school, when you go to Buckeye, high school, wherever else you go, it's not going to be, or when you go to college, it's not going to be about how good you are at math and English. Those are byproducts. It's going to be about how you learn to bring focus to whatever you have to do. Because when you do that, you'll say, I'm mad now. I'm having a bad day. I'm angry now. I want to hit somebody. And you're going to catch yourself and say, that's not right. I'm not in the place where I am empowered when I hurt somebody else. That's not courage. It's the opposite of courage. Does that make sense? You hurt somebody else, whether they're bigger than you or smaller than you, because you're angry, because you're upset. That's not courage. Courage is saying, what's making me feel this way? I've got to come to understand it so that I have control over where I put my focus. So that Sean and the young men here, or every one of you, feels like you're being who you are. Does it feel horrible when you're going through the day thinking you've got to be somebody else? No, what this is about, and that journey for me, when I was being cut all the time, you think my friends thought he's being a success when he's being cut? But they didn't know the journey that I was on was to kind of cut away the layers of junk to who I really was, who the best Nick was. So when I could know who I was, I knew I wouldn't give up. Number one, I knew I wouldn't give up. Good job. It's okay if you drop it too, but I want you to try to catch it. I knew I wouldn't give up. And then I got to the point where I knew not only was I not going to give up, I was getting better. By the end of that period of 2 years of being cut in front of 50,000 people, 70,000 people, I was ready to handle the pressure of being a kicker. What's a kicker like? Kicker is waiting on the sidelines. Go ahead. What's a kicker do?
They keep the ball after them.
Very good. Or field goal. And a kickoff. High five. What's your name?
Anthony.
Good job, Anthony. Good catch. I'm thinking you're a future wide receiver. Oh, maybe quarterback. Nice spiral. Okay. So I got to the point where I knew, because I went through the process and didn't give up on myself, I taught myself how to focus. When I've got literally, when I'm playing a road game, we're playing at the Raiders, we're playing at San Diego for the Chiefs, or playing at Denver or Seattle, I'd have 20,000 people within 100, 200 feet of me. And I'll tell you what, there were a lot of people shouting some really bad things, intended to distract me from what I had to do. When you go through this year, and next year, when you leave this library today, think about it and just start thinking and noticing what's taking you off your focus and what's keeping you on focus. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Because if you learn that, now you're gaining control. Why do you want to give your control to somebody else? If you bully another person, you decide, I'm frustrated. That's really what it's saying is, I don't feel in control. So I'm going to make myself feel good by doing it to somebody else. And that, you have a question? You know, I in a way I did. I'll tell you one example. And I got a good story about bullying. Let me answer one and I'll get to it. When I was with the Chiefs, we had a guy named Bill Moss. Bill Moss was a nose tackle. I was a skinny. I weighed 220 pounds. Now, back then, I weighed about 195, which is a lot of weight, but for when you're 6'4", it's not that, strong compared to a guy who's a nose tackle. And he had, at that point, a bullying mentality. If I can intimidate you, he thought, then I feel more good about myself. Now, the Bill Moss I know today is a very different person, and he's actually gone through some tough times. But he would tell you, now he realizes where that was coming from. It was coming from anger. It was coming from not feeling powerful. And so we had a little thing one time where we kind of confronted each other, and then I started to notice what he really wanted me to do. He knew I'd gone to Harvard and Dartmouth. Actually, I'd gone to Dartmouth at that point and then went to Harvard after my career. He wanted me to acknowledge that I knew he actually was a smart guy. He felt I thought he wasn't very smart because he was a tough nose tackle. Some of those guys, he was brutish. He was a great player too. He had a great heart. So I acknowledged him for that. And then I began to say, what are we going to do after our careers? And then we started to have a good relationship. Once he knew I understood him. So a lot of those choices we have to make are not about somebody else. Almost all of them are about us. And whether we're focusing on the right things. If you're not feeling good about yourself, where is that coming from and how do you get back to that feeling? I'm living the life I want to live. I'm doing the things I want to do. So if that comes back to what do I love doing? Now, some of the things that you love doing might take a while. Michelangelo took 17 years to paint the Sistine Chapel. Anybody seen pictures of the Sistine Chapel? You guys, that's pretty good. Well, Google Sistine Chapel. There's several hundred unbelievable paintings and frescoes of the Bible, the stories of the Bible, heroes of the Bible. And he had to conceive how to tell these stories. He had ADD. There are books about how a lot of the founding fathers had ADD. That he was somebody that would be called today someone that had attention issues. Well, you tell me, how's a guy that have attention issues paint one of the greatest achievements ever without being able to be focused? What he did was, he took what was a liability. Who knows what liability means? Anybody? Anybody? All right, let's get somebody else. Somebody new. You already asked. You already asked. Let's get somebody new.
Like responsible.
Liability. Well, yeah. Liability is it's something that is holding on. It's a liability is. He took something that was a negative that was drawing on him. It was on the deficit side, right? You spent that, and he turned it into something positive. So there's a responsibility issue in that too. But what he did was he turned his focus to what he loved doing. You know what I love doing? I love connecting with you guys. That is really cool. Because I know when I'm 90 years old and I'm sitting in my rocking chair, I'll be proud that I spent time doing this. Because I'm just giving to you what I was given. And I'll tell you why. I had a mentor named Dick Johnson. Dick Johnson kept saying to me, it's not how many times you fall down, it's how many times you get back up. When I was being cut, that was tough. When you're being told, when you're trying to, and you study harder and you don't do well on a test, or you don't feel included on the team or in the classroom, or you just think school doesn't matter. But he just helped me realize all these choices I made really did matter. And if I got back up and tried again, I'd get better. And what happened was, as I tried out again with a team, I was a little more confident. I was less worried about being cut. I was less fearful. It's a great quote in the Bible. 2 Timothy, you okay? Great quote in the Bible called 1 Timothy 1-7, 2 Timothy 1-7. God has not given us a spirit of fear, but of power, of love, and a sound mind. And that says it all. That could be the summary of today. You have a spirit in you that will make good choices, that will make choices that show that you love people, not in a syrupy, feminine way. I mean in a manful way. Loving means that takes courage. To say, I care about you enough that I got your back. Who saw Blindside? Moment of truth in that movie is when the mother, the white mother, identified this very large black man who his mother had abandoned him half the time. She had drug issues. She was almost never there. And she realized this young man, who supposedly wasn't a good student, he had one thing that really mattered to him. Loyalty. He had your back. And if you had his back, he had yours back. That's what I want you guys to develop. You honor the guys in this room that have the backs of the others. Not by being bullies, but by standing up for people that may be not as strong as you. Does that make sense?
Yes.
That's manful. And that's love. Not just all the kissy face stuff, you know. Real love is courageous. Real love is sacrificing for other people. Real courage is doing when it ain't easy. You have a question? Well, because I wasn't the best kicker at first. I was cut 11 times by 8 teams. And then I made it with Kansas City. One last time. And what's your name? Kevin. And then I was ready. It was like all those cuts made me better. I didn't look at them as negative. I looked at what if I learned from it. You got to think that way. When you've had a bad day, don't put yourself in, why does this always happen to me? Ask the question, what have I learned and how can I apply this lesson? So when I finally made it, I was ready. I was stronger mentally, stronger emotionally, and I wasn't focused on those people in the crowd, they're going to boo if I miss. Did that give me power? The only thing that gives you power is saying, what do I have control over? And I have control over one thing. Me, my mind, my heart, my soul, how I make decisions. That's it. You have a question?
What were the 8 teams that you care about?
8 teams. Okay, we'll go in order. New York Jets, Baltimore Colts, Tampa Bay Buccaneers, Cincinnati Bengals, Washington Redskins, New Orleans Saints, San Diego Chargers,